Home, home, home. Oh, hi. I guess you probably wonder what this is all about. Well, I gotta tell you, man, that last episode was a little upsetting, a little savage, kind of noisy, a little bit scary as we had to drill some new holes through the firewall. So right now, I'm just taking a few moments, find my inner calmness, get my zen back, get back to working on this old Jeep. So give me a moment, I'll get my chakra all straightened out here. I'll be right back with you. Home, home, home. Okay, that looks like a clever contraption, doesn't it? So, two things. First of all, everywhere that I put my blue tape on my little fabbed up bracket, the paint just came right off. Now, I put that self-etching primer down, and then I put paint over the top of that. Obviously, something's wrong. But anyway, I had to kind of stick my roll of blue tape up there to hold it in place while my little bits of silicone seal up. So whilst that dries, if you'll notice over there, we've got a problem. One of these things does not look like the others, and I bet you can tell which it is. It's that parking brake bracket. So I just stuck that in there temporarily. Obviously it's all rusty and nasty looking, so we're going to pull that out, give it the treatment with hopefully some paint that will stick to it. All right, well, there's our park brake bracket back in place, and I did pull that little shelf unit out and took all the paint off it, gave it a bath in acetone, sanded it, primered it again, painted it again. Hopefully this time it will stay, and I'm not using any blue tape to glue it down. I do have my silicone down the sides, and I'm just letting it sit there and cure. I grabbed a couple of other pieces, like this piece right here goes underneath or over the top of the steering column when it goes in, and then this is the piece that bolts it up against that bracket right there to hold it there. So I pulled those out of the scrapyard, painted them up. Now I'm going to walk you around the front. We're going to talk about power steering for a minute. All right, friends, if you've got any close friends or relatives who are contemplating taking on a task like this, taking an old 77 Jeep and rebuilding the thing from the ground up and putting new parts in where old ones were, get them some do an intervention, man, get them some help. This is, while I was waiting for paint to dry and silicone to dry and all that kind of stuff, I came up here and I thought, well, it's about time to get that power steering pump in place. I've been kind of kicking the box around on the floor for a while. This is my new pump, and you'll notice my bolts here, there's about 3/4 of an inch of threads is all on there. This is my old pump back in where it goes here, and the bolts are much longer. I'm going to grab you and give you a closer look at what I'm talking about here. Hang on. So there's this bracket here, which goes in a pivot point right there. And then, you know, the idea is you can put a 1/2 inch breaker bar or something here and kind of lever this thing back out when you're trying to tighten up your V-belts. But in order to get through these slots, you can see that I needed a much longer bolt. I mean, it has to be about 1.25 inches or something like that. So that was problem number one. Problem number two, my brand new hoses just will not quite get here to get hooked up to this either pump, the old one or the new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back off, give me some measurements off that thing of what size bolts I need there, how long they need to be, so that I can check that with a replacement. I'll see about sending this guy back. I still have the box for it and everything down here, and because again, I think I mentioned I dropped this at one point and I kind of bent the return line fitting a little bit. And with it bent, it wouldn't go back through all the hose holes here, the bolt holes. So I had to kind of bend it back straight. And you know how metal feels when it's fatigued and you feel like one more little move and it's going to break? That's how that feels to me. So I really don't want to leave this one here, but I was just sticking it up there to try to figure out what the heck was going on when I was struggling with the other one. So back to the drawing board on that thing a little bit. I'll figure out if I can get a pump with longer bolts on it, and I'm going to need probably at least 6 inches longer of my hoses here to have enough room to get around the corner. So the front of this thing isn't coming back together too awfully fast. I found a grade 8 fine thread bolt, a new one from Hillman, that I can get into my end of my crankshaft here to put the vibration dampener on. What I'm struggling with a little bit is finding the washers to go inside the vibration dampener so I can pull that thing back in there as I tighten that down. And then, you know, obviously here is where our fuel or our oil pump goes. I haven't really done anything up here yet. I got to get my thermostat housing off the old one, and I bought that tube for my oil filler with the cool little vented or ribbed knob, and the tube's not the right diameter fitting the hole here. So damn it. I mean, you know, what gives here? You buy this stuff and it's supposed to work, and it doesn't. So upstairs, I'm going to get on the internet and do a little shopping, do a little figuring out what needs to be done. But it's a good time to be spending a little time doing that, because I've got my silicone to kind of set up around my bracket where I put it on there so I can get my wires done. I did find I've got my piece ready to be my grommet in there, and it is going to be big enough. It might even be a little too big by the time I get it, you know, sliced and whatever. So that, I'm sure that'll take a little doing to get my grommet in that hole where I brought my cables through. But yeah, some good progress and a couple of road bumps. So I guess that's how it goes when you're working on a project of this magnitude. So that's it for tonight. It's time to have a glass of wine and relax for a little bit, but got everything cure and dry and all that stuff. So I'll be back and we'll continue on here. Okay, I don't have a full day out here, but I did want to give you a quick look. I got my grommet situation sorted out. So hang on here, let me get the light pointed at it, and I'll turn you around. So there it is. It's not perfectly lined up. Obviously I gotta, you know, and my wires are still gonna move around a little bit, but it's gonna serve the purpose of protecting our wires from the sharp edges of our hole. So no chafe. And probably what I'll do, once I do get everything exactly where I want it, I'll take a little silicone and kind of fill up the spaces where you see some light shining through. And speaking of light shining through, our cowl vent tube right there has an opening. It needs some foam around there. I've got some, so I can get that handled. And I'm going to walk around here and show you what we wound up from this side with our grommet. Obviously I have more cable pulled through this way than I need right now, but now I'll get working with the cable, get it situated, and then push the excess back through, and there we go. I think that's going to work out okay. So I'm going to leave it here for right this minute, and I'll come back and show you the next thing that we're going to do. All right, just a quick look inside the tub here. I do have my connector into the control unit, and like I said, these might just wind up going on the firewall right up here somewhere. But let's spin around to the front. So I have roughly started kind of laying everything out, and I think I just found an extension for this cable, so I'm gonna look at that. But I've basically just slapped a couple of zip strips on here. Same thing over here, just tied this up. So we have our injector cables here. The only thing hanging loose now, this one is air temperature right here, and Then this bundle is the fuel pump and battery hot and ground. And I brought the O2 sensor over here because I wound up with a lot of cable for that one. So right now I just have that temporarily right here. But this, that little dude right there, I think that's an extender. I think that's an extender for my distributor. So might need that. And then this is our fuel pressure gauge, which we're gonna now figure out where we're gonna place that. And then in the back there, right there, is that mess of cabling. That is the existing underhood part of the wire harness. So I'm gonna sort that out next and kind of start to rough it in so I can see where I'm at. And then the last chunk will be fuel line. So obviously you've got to figure out where some of the rest of this is going to go, but starting to make some progress here. All right, well here we have an assortment of parts off the old block. There's our thermostat. It is not supposed to be green. Here's our bolts that we're holding down our thermostat housing. 3 washers on each bolt, because obviously we couldn't get the right size bolt. This is the heater return line. Pretty much the bottom of the manifold where this went in was completely corroded shut. No water was going through that thing in about 100 years. And here's what our thermostat housing looks like. So pretty much not going to reuse any of that. All right guys, well it's time for a quick wrap up here. So our old thermostat housing is I think beyond saving. So I'm gonna put a new one of those in there. That's the one thing that you wouldn't want to have fail or start to introduce a bunch of corrosion in the system as soon as you plug it in. Same with that return fitting for the heater core. Got to get me a new one of those. You saw that all the bolts that were holding this down had 3 washers on them. So obviously whoever put that in, and it was not me, decided that if they couldn't get the right size bolt or they couldn't cut it off or whatever, they'd just stack a bunch of washers on there. So that's a good job. And I've never really seen a thermostat that should have been replaced a long time ago like this one. So that is on me. I did pull in the wiring harness. It's had some work on it. You know, I had electric fan, I had a relay up there for those fog lights in the front of those running lights. I think I might start over with the wiring harness and just get a new one, and I saw that you can get them terminated, so I might do that. Then I think we'll get our brake booster and master cylinder on the way in, and then really that's all the stuff that goes in the engine compartment, and that'll give us everything in there so that we can start to get our wiring, now that it's through the firewall, placed where we want it to live forever, tied up nice and neat. Fuel line run, fuel pressure regulator placed, all that stuff once I know everything else that's going on there. I don't know how long it will take to get that stuff here, but have no fear, I got plenty to do. I did have the Jeep shoved over on the other side of the garage for a little while today, so I put the muffler on the other side over there and the little tip on the end, so the exhaust system's kind of put together. I need to get some high heat anti-seize to put on those bolts before I call those good. But yeah, I got plenty to do even if my parts don't come in, like, you know, that vibration dampener and the oil pump and all that stuff. So all that's been sitting here, just kind of always something else to do first, but I'll get to that as well. But for right now, I think I got to go do a little shopping. So I'm gonna leave this here and I'll see you next time around. Thanks for watching, and don't go anywhere. Got a lot to do yet.